I heard in your explanation you were speaking about Second Ezra and speaking about that the Bible was used, and so I take it that you identify with Second Ezra as being part of the inspired Word of God.
Actually, the Apocrypha was canon. The Apocrypha is canon. The only time the Apocrypha.
I'm sorry, I was just talking specifically about the Second Ezra, though.
Well, yeah, that's Apocrypha. That's the canon. It was a part of canon originally, and what they did when you got to the time of Martin Luther, the Protestants, they actually rebelled against the Catholic Church and took out in their Bible they took out Apocrypha books.
Mm-hmm.
After actually, they said it was like it was a sort of a debate thing, but I mean, there's things in the Apocrypha that like kind to connect the New Testament to what's going on in the New Testament, because what do you have the time of the Greeks? That's very important before when you get to the time of Romans, and I could prove the Apocrypha to be true in many cases, like when you're dealing with the Feast of Dedication, the Feast of Lights, which some people consider Hanukkah.
Mm-hmm.
When you're dealing with that, that's not found in the book of Leviticus chapter 23, where the feast days are found, the holy days. You don't find the Feast of Dedication, and what you realize, the Feast of Dedication is dedicated to the temple being destroyed. Most of the New Testament is similar as commentary to what was going on. When you're dealing with the book of when you're dealing with the first and second book of Maccabees, chapter 7, verse 24, 20. Can you pull it up? What does it say? That would be great. Who's not the author of this?
That is quite correct. Yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't written by Ezra. And you mentioned, matter of fact, you also mentioned Tobit. And Tobit, we already know, at least in chapter 6, 4 through 8, it teaches sorcery. If we go to Tobit chapter 6, verses 4 through 8, and as well as Tobit 12 and 9, there's another one in Tobit, but Tobit chapter 6, 4 through 8, it's actually teaching sorcery.
How is it teaching sorcery?
All right, let's look at it together.
And a mention about the book of Ezra, you're gonna have to prove to me that it was written, that the ancient, because this was actually part of canon. You're saying that. Can you prove to me? No.
It's already been dated.
The Bible in my hand right now is older than what you're saying, because you're telling me that
1611,
1800s that people, Christians, can come and take out 14 books out of the Bible and just say it's okay.
Looking at, we're going from 4 to 8. Whom the angel said, open the fish and take the heart and the liver and the gall and put them up safely. So the young man did as the angel commanded him. And when they had roasted the fish, they did eat it. Then they both went on their way till they drew near Akabatan. Then the young man said to the angel, Brother Azarias, to what use is the heart and the liver and the gall of the fish? And he said unto him, touching the heart and the liver, if a devil or an evil spirit trouble any, we must make smoke thereof before the man or the woman. Right now we are being told about, taking elements of animals to root ourselves away from evil spirits, as well as being healed in certain aspects. Now, I understand why the Catholics and Catholicism lean towards this. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not sitting up here going to place the Apocrypha on any level of inspired Word of God. This is Tobit right there that I just read is in complete contrast to Deuteronomy 18:10-12, where it totally comes against and renounces anything dealing with sorcery. Drunk or high.
Listen.
Hold on, let me just finish my sentence. Even getting drunk or high is considered sorcery. When you are finding yourself to being inebriated, these are, but the Bible specifically speaks about that as being getting into sorcery.
No one's arguing that. But what I'm trying to tell you is that have you ever do you know what the term Urim and Thummim is?
Does it have to deal with what was just read in Tobit?
No, it's in the Bible. But
right now, I just want to see, how do you reconcile what I just read in Tobit? Before we start going
from the picture that I was given, what I'm trying to tell you is that the Levites, they did certain things that were considered like rituals.
Was that sorcery? What I just read? Was that dealing with sorcery?
I want to give all the praises and the honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Racha HaKodash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the bishops of Great Millstone. Honors as well to you, brethren. Shalom to you, fellow believers. Peace to you. Shalom to the elect. So anyway, I want to go in this video here. I want to try to make it quick, but it's a lot to go into because now we're dealing with the Apocrypha, and it's our job to defend the whole gospel. Remember, the Lord said, "Lo, I come in the volume of the book." Now, we must understand, if the Lord never wanted it in the Bible, it would have never been in there in the first place. So I didn't go into his references and did Ezra's write what was in the book or whatever else. Let's get a scripture real quick. Let's see who really writes what's in the book. Exodus 31:18, and he gave unto Moses 31:17, I guess. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever, right? This is the Sabbath. For it is 6 days the Lord made heaven and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested and he was refreshed. And he gave it unto Moses, right, the tablets, when he had made an end of communion, right, with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of the testimony, tables of stone written by the finger of the Most High, the finger of God. So even though Moses had these tablets, it was written by the Lord. Everything that is inspired is written by the Lord, if you're spiritual. So this is a video for Hebrew Israelites and Christians, which a lot of the Christians aren't spiritual. But at the end of the day, if the Lord does not, don't the Lord create all things? Don't the Lord put things in there where he wants them to be put? Is there not things that Yahweh Shai, the one you call Jesus, quoted out of the book of Isaiah? There's several instances that the Messiah was just quoting things out of Isaiah. But you don't see the book of Jesus. You don't see that, because it's all from his Father, no matter who wrote it. Okay? Understand that this is all a spiritual matter. But these little murmurings, this wasn't inspired, that wasn't inspired. We're going to give you some history on Martin Luther too, and some things that transpired out of that. But let's go to 2 Ezra 6:54. After these things, also whom thou madest the Lord all thy creatures, of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen, right? The Israelites. All this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou hast made it the world for our sakes. As for the other people, which also come from Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing, but be like unto spittle, and has likened to the abundance of them the drop that falleth from a vessel. Right? So we go to Isaiah, the NSAB translation. Behold, this is Isaiah 40:15. Behold, the nations are like a drop from a bucket, and are regarded as a speck of dust on the scales. Behold, he lift up his islands like a fine dust, even Lebanon, and not enough to burn, nor its beast enough for the burnt offerings. All the nations are as nothing before him. They are regarded by him as less than nothing and meaningless. To whom then will ye liken God? Or what likeness will you compare with him? Right? So technically all the nations are nothing to the Lord, but the Lord chose what nation who is something to him? The children of Israel. Amos 3:1, Leviticus 20:26, when he said, I've severed you from other people that ye should be mine. So they really want to question the validity of the Apocrypha, right? So there's history in the Apocrypha, okay? There's history in the Apocrypha. I'll read a little bit out of the Apocrypha, especially First Maccabees. And a lot of people, a lot of Christians know this is true history. True history, okay? First Maccabees 1:11, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, right? Antiochus the fourth, I believe, son of Antiochus the king, who had been hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 130th and 7th year of the kingdom of the Greeks, right? You remember Alexander had the 4 generals. And it was many generals, Antiguus or whatever. You had different generals, but it was the 4 major ones, right? And Antiochus come out of that, I believe, the solution, right? It says, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who pursued many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen. This is beginning your Hellenization of the Israelites, right? That are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have seen much sorrow, right? So, and then you can go into the time of Babylon, when they said we're going to basically go into the Queen of Heaven, because when we got away from the Queen of Heaven, we saw much sorrow, right? So this devised, this pleased them all, right? Then certain of the people were forwarded therein, and they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen, whereupon they built a place of exercise in Jerusalem, right? Which goes to, Jim means naked, I believe, according to the customs of the heathen. So what you see today has very much relevance of what you've seen here. This is the root of it. This is, well, we've always started following customs of the heathen, but when you look at modern day America, which we call Rome, we're doing the same damn things. Every goddamn woman is dressed the way they're dressed. Let me just say that. It says, and let me go up, I'm going to jump down. And which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. And they hanged their infants about their necks, and rifled their homes, and slew them that had circumcised them. Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Wherefore they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died, and there was very great wrath upon Israel. So you can see the examples, in what you see here. How do we know we're the Israelites? Look at this, man. Is it not us that's fallen under these curses, under this category, under these categories? They're hanging children. And wait a minute. Some of them grew old and died. They're not going to get paid back for that? Or the Lord's going to judge them in the last days and raise them from the dead and then throw them in hell? No, they have to get judgment. Jeremiah 30:16. Isaiah 14:1. All they that devour thee shall be devoured. Every one of them shall go into captivity. Ecclesiastes 3:15. The thing that has been is now, and the thing is to be has already been. I guess it's that way. But God requires that which is past, right? The Most High require all these things that they done. He required that which is past. So we're gonna go to second. Let me see here. We're gonna go to some commentary, I believe. Martin Luther, right? And what happened? At the very beginning of Reformation, the principal Bible available was Latin Vulgate, going back to St. Jerome. The Bible Jerome had originally produced in Latin in 380 AD, though by the time of the Reformation it undergone specific textual corruptions, right? It included both a translation of Hebrew to Old Testament and Greek, New Testament, plus Tobit, Judith, Wisdom of Solomon, Sirach, Baruch, and some editions took the book of Daniel 1 and 2 of Maccabees, right? So you see here that during the Reformation, and even then you had other groups that removed, you had the Bible, I believe Crusaders or whatever you want to call them, the Bible, I forgot what they call them, but you also had Eusebius, I believe, Marcinius Canon, which goes to light, who they didn't even want the Old Testament in the Bible. Now, I read all this. I don't know how 100% fact that is, but you could do your research that they removed the Old Testament because they didn't want people to see the God of the Old Testament. So you had a bunch of in and out books, in, taken out, putting in, taken out. Now, I already knew the history on Martin Luther, who owned 6 slaves, by the way. In the 1500s, he had an issue. He understood the German language, right? Which I believe English bounds off of that. But he knew the German language, but it was Latin, and the majority of them couldn't read Latin. So he had a time doing these translations from Latin to German, and then he was kind of putting what he thought was correct or canon. You see, so he messed up on some of the translations, but that's why it's up to us to put it together. And the Apocrypha was real hard for him. He did agree to put the Apocrypha in. When I actually got down into it, but then he had an issue with the translations, and some people didn't accept it. It didn't look good for the church, right? Anyway, especially today, you look at 2nd Ezra 6:54. The church don't want to read that. Anyway, let me go on down. I just pretty much said in a nutshell. It says by 1522, Luther had translated the New Testament, and he had completed the full Bible in 1534, which included what came to be called the Apocrypha, those extra books from intertestamental Judaism. Luther kept revising this into his waning years. So he kept revising it, for he realized what a major change agent this translation Bible was. Luther did not translate directly from the Latin Vulgate, or for some, this amounted to heresy. Luther had learned Greek, right? Had learned Greek the usual way at Latin school of Magdeburg, so he could translate Greek words into Latin. So he was like a novice that came up to be a scholar. What happens when somebody that doesn't know a language tries to learn a language, and in a short period of time tries to translate that language from another language? Yeah, you're going to have mix-ups. Yep. Probably Luther made forays into nearby towns and villages just to listen to people speak, so that his translations, particularly of the New Testament, would be close to ordinary contemporary usage of possible This was not the Bible and for the elite. I'm not going to read all this, but this is a lot. They tell a lot. This is called the most dangerous thing Luther did. Christian history. So some Christians even know that he was wrong for doing that. And there's some Christians who believe in the Apocrypha. The Roman Catholics, some Christians believe in the Apocrypha. So anyway, I also want to touch on this point and the reason why I read all that to bring this out, sorcery goes back to witchcraft, enchantment, instance of sorcery. When something becomes sorcery, it becomes witchcraft and sorcery when it's not of the Lord. Let's read an example. Exodus 31. This is called the sign of the Sabbath. No, that's not what that is. Salakia. Leviticus 16. The sin offering of the priest. Right? I'll just read it quick. And Aaron shall bring the bullock of a sin offering, which is for himself, and shall make an atonement for himself, and the house, and shall kill the bullocks of sin offering, which is for himself. So, the problem is we watch too much television. And I remember, I don't wear necklaces. I don't really like necklaces too much. But, if I wear the stones and I wear them around my neck, I had a Christian come up and say, that's witchcraft. That's witchcraft. And I was like, so with Aaron and the priest and all them, that was just different. Well, how is it different? It becomes witchcraft when you do it unto other gods. Period. That's when just like the rainbow. The rainbow is not witchcraft, but look what happened to it. And I told her that, and then she shut up. But anyway, let me get to the point. And he shall put the incense upon the fire before the Lord, and a cloud of the incense may cover the mercy seat that is upon the testimony that he die not. And he shall take the blood of the bullock and sprinkle it with his finger upon the mercy seat eastward, and before the mercy seat shall he sprinkle of the blood with his finger 7 times. So this is the problem with Hollywood movies, right? Which they're on point with some of that. On the left-hand side, they'll do that to other gods. They'll do the same. This is what the children of Israel did. This is why you read Exodus 20. He said, thou shalt not have any other God beside me, before me, which really goes to beside me. Why did he say that? Because we was taking the practices of our practice and then we was merging it and doing it unto other gods. That's when it becomes sorcery and witchcraft. If an angel of the Lord tell you to do a particular thing, right, you have to do it if it's of the Lord. So it's sorcery and witchcraft when the Lord told Moses to go into Midian and take all the women that hadn't laid with men, right? That you would consider that wicked. There's a whole lot of things the Lord would do and that that the world will consider wicked. That's why we know Christians don't really believe in the Bible, because all those things is coming back. The only reason why the Messiah came is to die for the nation of Israel for the sins and to bring them back through faith. But all those hardships that's going to come, let's go to 2nd Ezra real quick. 15 and 19. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for the great tribulation. That tells you that. This is why the Apocrypha is so important, because of the prophecies. Let's look up this word altar. High altar for a sacrifice to great gods with an S. Perhaps originally meaning burnt offerings, right? The worship to other offer sacrifice to honor the burning of sacrifices. So this is the point I'm making. You had sacrifices to the Most High Yahweh, and you had sacrifices to the Queen of Heaven, Balaam, and various other gods. Various other gods that our people sacrifice to, right? Baal, various other gods. Anyway, the Apocrypha is a legit book. You just don't understand it, then put it down.